Hello, everyone. Welcome to the fourth episode of ReRacked, the only snooker podcast where the main host has to insist every week that I do not hate Judd Trump. Please get the message.
Oh, what have you said? What have you said?
It's because I was celebrating by winning, which we'll get to shortly, and I said someone accused me of saying the tournament wouldn't have been any good if Judd had won it or something, which is nonsense because both semi-finals are fantastic.
Yeah.
But, because I'm not Trump's biggest fan, everyone has it in their mind that I hate him. I don't.
I think you can be indifferent to people, can't you?
Yeah. I'm indifferent to him. I think he's got a little bit of an attitude problem occasionally. I think that, well, saying he's got an attitude problem isn't really fair, is it? It's more that, I'm not sure how to describe it, but some of his interviews, especially when he's lost, have a tendency to come off as a little bit, what's the word? Bitter.
Okay.
Okay.
I think the majority of people were happy to see Barry win last week, though.
Yeah. I think about it, it's what, 6.5 years since he won something.
Exactly. Yeah.
I was in college when he last won a ranking event, and I graduated uni in 2020. Shows you how long it is.
Yeah, for someone that's so good, like it has been such a long time.
Exactly. So, as we've just been talking about, the European Masters is wrapped up. Congratulations to Barry Hawkins, who beat Judd Trump in a very good final. Hopefully, he can spend some of the prize money on a nickname he actually likes.
I don't know. I've heard a couple of different ones, but they're not very original, are they? Maybe we should chuck it out there to the faithful, ask them what they might want to call him.
That's a good idea. We'll chuck it out to the faithful. What should Barry Hawkins' new nickname be?
Probably better not ask Judd Trump though.
Yeah. Anyone who says the Hawk is immediately being blocked.
Oh, I'm sure we can think of something.
So yeah, Barry won. It was a fantastic event. I was watching the first semi-final between Higgins and Trump, and I was thinking snooker doesn't get much better than this. And then the second semi-final happened. And I thought, it turns out snooker does get better than this.
All week it was just brilliant. Like it was the first time in so long that it's actually felt like snooker's back, like the season had properly started. Like especially the semi-finals. I was just looking through them the last couple of days, and like there was 21 frames played and over there was 20 over 50 breaks. Like that's serious standard there. It was brilliant.
It really was. I mean, I remember I was watching. I watched a lot of the sort of earlier rounds as well because I was off, and I couldn't remember the last time at the beginning of the season the standard was so high. It didn't feel like anybody was really sort of feeling their way into the season. I've been a bit rusty or whatever. It just seemed the standard was so great, and I've just been so happy all week. So I'm just so glad it's back.
Yeah, and even next month seems like there's so much to look forward to as well.
Yeah, super excited.
Yeah.
Now, since then, we've actually had 3 draws go out for the Wuhan Open, the English Open, and the International Championship. Now, I've not nosediving down the International Championship draw because I literally saw it less than an hour ago. But there's been some interesting ties. I remember the International Championship, we've got a possibility in the last 64 of Judd Trump versus Michael White. So I can't wait to be accused of hating Judd again.
Yeah,
I'm just having a look at the Wuhan ones, and I saw Andres Petrov saying I think he's got Mark Williams again. It seems
again,
to
yeah.
Yeah,
be something of a tradition.
Andres has drawn Mark Williams so much, he started naming their matches after Harry Potter books.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
I see that Matthew Stevens and Daniel Wells, I think they're good friends. They've been drawn out in the first round. And same with Neil Robertson and Ryan Thomerson. So, and they'll be interesting to see how they get on.
And is 147 on Twitter found that it's apparently the first professional match between two Australians since I think 1999.
Oh, that was going to be my stat there.
Sorry.
Yeah, I was thinking I can't remember the last time we had two Australians. It's crazy, isn't it?
It's mad, yeah.
I think the pick for me of that though, the Wuhan qualifiers has got to be Murphy and Mertens. That's going to be really interesting.
Talk about Crash Bang Wallop.
Yeah, it's going to be very much so, but it's very much a generational game as well, that one, isn't it? Just seeing
Definitely.
like the young pretender and the master himself. So I'm very looking forward to that. And you've got on the other side of the the Belgians, we've got Leclerc's got Graham Dott, which should be quite interesting. Very, very big contrasting styles.
Yeah, that'll be fascinating because I just don't understand Graham Dott these days. He's either extremely good or he just loses to nil.
Yeah.
There don't seem to be an in between.
Well, speaking of that, we've got Ronnie O'Sullivan's got Ken Doherty as well.
He's drawn him for the International Championship as well.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And we've got Robertson Thomason for the International Championship as well.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing. It's mad. It's mental.
We've probably just started copy-pasting the draws.
Yeah, I've been asleep, so I haven't seen that draw, but yeah, it's been mad.
3 draws come out in the last couple of days. It's been hectic.
Yeah, it has been a bit. And Stan Moody's in the Wuhan draw as well, so I'll be keeping my eye on him. He's a local lad to me, so hopefully he's got Pangjin Zhu. I can't say that. So that should be good. Yeah, I'll be keeping my eye on that.
By the way, we need to mention while we're on here, we do deeply apologise for any Chinese names that we butcher. Unfortunately, as far as I'm aware, none of us actually speak Chinese.
No, definitely not.
No, I'm gonna start practicing a bit more.
Well, yeah. One other thing about the International Championship draw in particular, Andres' life gets easier. After Mark Williams in the Wuhan, in the International Championship, Sean Murphy.
Oh, it'd be all right. It'd be fine.
Andrew Paget's got Ronnie O'Sullivan in one of the draws, and as predicted, he's going to win 4-0. Because Andrew Paget does that.
Well, yes.
I mean, you can't be your own fan.
It's good to see Hendry enter into a couple of tournaments. I don't know if he'll show up is another question.
Yeah, well, I'm indebted to Cluster of Reds actually. Thank you, Alex. He's put some of the English Open draws on Twitter for those of us who were on nights and fell asleep. We've got Higgins and Fu. That's a really good one. And Luca Brussel's got Stan Moody. So
that could be a very fun match.
It could be very fun. I don't think there's going to be many times Luca's going to be made to feel old in a match, but that's definitely one of them.
Yeah.
And Stephen Hendry's got Fergal O'Brien for the connoisseurs. So that should be fun.
I saw that draw and I thought, if Hendry and Fergal playing well, that could actually be a lot of fun.
It really could.
Because it's not like they're known for hanging back, though, so...
No. I think I'm definitely going to have to start looking at... I'm going to be looking forward to seeing if I can get some coverage of those, because I think that could be a lot of fun.
I was looking at, just at the draw, Higgins and Fu. I couldn't believe that Fu actually has a better head-to-head record against Higgins. I think it's 12-10 to
really?
Fu. Yeah, I couldn't believe that.
Wow.
So,
wasn't the last time those two faced off? Wasn't it in Hong Kong when Marco made that 147?
it was indeed, yeah.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
That's one of my favourite moments of snooker, Marco Fu making a 147 in his home country.
Oh, I know. I must admit, I had a little bit of a lump in my throat when I watched that. It was just so good, and I think his daughter was there as well, and it was just so she hadn't been able to see him play much, so it was just wonderful. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, and especially after everything he'd been through in the past few years.
Yeah, yeah. He should just get a wild card into everything. I think for now, shouldn't he? Because he's just. I think everybody loves Marco. He's one of the few players that I think everybody just really,
Yeah.
really loves him. But I still want John Higgins to win that match, I'm afraid. So.
And then there's a couple of other ones in the English Open draw. Ryan Day, Ashley Hugel, and Joe Perry, Mark Davis. So they're repeats of the Crucible qualifiers from this year. So they'll be interesting ones. So Hugel and Davis will be hoping to get revenge from them loss in the Crucible qualifiers.
Yeah. Lazowski Stevens as well. That's
Oh yeah.
That's standing out as well. That could be quite a fun one to watch.
Lazowski and Stevens always have good matches against each other.
Yeah.
I'll definitely be looking out for that one.
Definitely. So yeah, it's really good that we're talking about the qualifiers and we're just as excited as we are about main draws because there's just so many really good. The strength in depth has obviously just got so much better in the last sort of decade or so. It's just really, it's just so good that we're looking forward to just the preliminary things rather than just the main draws. It's great.
I mean, you mentioned about Perry and Mavis, and the funny thing is, I've read something don't think you two have. I've read something very funny not too long ago from my old mate Rob Francis on Twitter. Instantly, as an aside, he's starting his own podcast, ReRacked, which, amongst all people, is starring our Lorenzo on our Lorenzo.
Yes.
So once you've listened to this 18 times, feel free to give them a check out.
Yes. It's the done thing now. We all do podcasts now because we're all so excited.
Yeah. Exactly, I'm still annoyed that his podcast has more followers than I do on Twitter.
Yes, we probably need to get on that, don't we?
But Rob was saying something very funny about it doesn't matter who wins out of Mavis and Perry because you'll not be allowed through anyway.
Yes.
Mavis surviving on tour.
Yes.
That's good to see. It's good to see other snooker podcasts coming out. There's just not enough snooker content, so the more the better, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I was saying about Andres naming his matches against Williams after Harry Potter. It's Petrov v. Williams 1, Philosophic Loss. Petrov v. Williams 2, Chamber of Balls Cleaner. Petrov v. Williams 3, Prisoner of Potting Machine. I like that one.
That's good.
And Petrov v. Williams 4, Butt on Fire, which sounds like an erotic film, to be honest.
That's not an image I need.
So, yeah. Maybe I've got to discuss. Just give me a moment. Oh, yeah, the Crucible situation. There's been increasing talk again about the World Championship leaving Crucible and going to Saudi Arabia. We're only going to touch on it this week because if we devoted all the time it needed to it, we would literally never talk about anything else.
Well, I think we kind of touched on it in one of the earlier episodes.
Exactly.
Didn't we? And I just think it's becoming almost a tradition now. It's just every single season we have to talk about it.
Yeah.
And every single season everybody says the exact same things. And it doesn't seem like, I think some of it's come off that chat that Stephen Hendry had with Barry on Q-tips, I think.
Yeah.
And I just think, until something absolutely concrete comes out about it, I think it might be worth, like you said, just sort of mentioning it because it's come up again, but I don't think it needs to be debated.
Yeah, it seems to be everywhere at the minute to chat about the Crucible.
Yeah. At the end of the day, all we can say is the facts which are the Crucible has a contract with World Snooker through 2027.
Yeah. So let's talk about it, in 2 or 3 years' time when there's
Exactly.
around it.
Exactly, yeah.
I think Phil Haig did put, and it was Anthony McGill's sort of his 10 pennies worth in about it, and I think that was probably my sort of take on it. The same thing. It's like, if you want bigger tournaments, he said, go and make them. This doesn't need to be the biggest. Keep it here because of the history. You can't put a price on that. And he's right. It's not all about the money. The money could still be the big prize draw, but if you want something that's bigger, that's got 5,000 people in it, do it. It doesn't have to be. Wimbledon in tennis or whatever doesn't have the biggest seating capacity, but most tennis players will tell you that's the biggest tennis tournament of the year. That's the big traditional one because it stayed at the same venue. And it's that there's other football stadiums in the world that have a bigger seating capacity than Wembley Stadium, but it's still got the history there, and people, the footballers, that is their big focus. Their ambition when they're little, they want to score a winning goal at Wembley.
Exactly.
Yes, it's great to play at the new camp or with Bernabeu or wherever, but again, it's about history, it's about the culture, it's not just about how many backsides you can get on a chair.
It's like I've been said on Twitter, it's like saying, yes, this year, to get more people in the FA Cup, more money for the FA Cup final, it's going to be held in Los Angeles.
Exactly. I mean, you could shove it in any 120,000 seater stadium at the arse end of Florida or wherever. But at the end of the day, it's not going to have the same thing. I mean, if you remember when the cup final moved to Cardiff when they were rebuilding Wembley, and it was great because it's a great stadium. The Millennium Stadium is a great stadium, but it wasn't the same, was it? It's
no.
And I think that's exactly it. It needs to be, you need to think about more than just the income, more than just the number of figures at the bottom of any particular sheet, don't you?
You'd hope if they were thinking of actually moving it, that they would speak to players and fans before they make a decision on that, because like the World Championship, it's massive that it stays at the Crucible.
Yeah. The amount that Sheffield City Council, I was speaking to a good friend of mine, Matthew Lawson, or Lawson, or what his surname is, who he was saying about Sheffield, and they've done a hell of a lot for the sport. The amount of money they've been pumping into a sport is ridiculous just to have the World Championship there.
Yeah.
Right.
They've basically been bending over backwards for them. But my view on it is, if you want a big tournament and one that can move around the world every year, I feel like you've already got two really good candidates called the Players' Championship and the Tour Championship. Because what better tournaments to move around the world to advertise a sport than tournaments that are exclusive for the players who are playing the best snooker?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Yeah.
When you put it that way, it sounds blindingly obvious. I think the reason for that is because it is.
Yeah, exactly. We're not over egging puddings here, or we're not reinventing wheels or pick your own cliches. It's just, it is. It really is that simple. That is a really, really good point. You've got the best players at this time. It's a bit like the Champions League, and again in football, you've got the best teams of that season. These are the teams with the current form, the current whatever. It's great. Yeah. Well, these are the best of our sport at this time, and move that round. That's as good an advert, isn't it?
Yeah.
But maybe not to Hull, because I don't think that went down well.
It's not like we're doing nuclear science here.
No, we're
We're
not.
just making a very simple point that the Crucible is something special. You know, I've put up, there's been a couple polls gone up from me and Xander, someone else on Twitter, about the Crucible, and the results are absolutely staggering on how many people want the event to stay there.
Yeah.
And just trying to find a poll now that I put up.
I think, I think most of the faithful, those that go every year, those that are really invested in it. Maybe, I don't know, I'd be interested to see if it's a generational thing, because obviously people like me, who's, here in her capacity as living memory again, for me growing up, that's always been there, and it's very much a part of my sort of snooker story, if you like, if that doesn't sound a bit crap. But for me, the idea of it moving is almost like sacrilege, whereas I think if you're maybe a younger person, maybe my daughter's generation or whatever, maybe they'd be a little bit more open to it, because they haven't yet racked up all the memories that those of us who are a bit older have. It's almost synonymous with it. And...
yeah, I mean, the poll put up yesterday, if you want, what poll put up yesterday, it's currently got an hour and 3/4 left. Would you rather watch World Championship of Crucible or go to a new venue, no history, that's, let's say, 10% cheaper ticket wise? Because that's one of the biggest arguments with the Crucible, which is if you move away, you can have cheaper tickets. And of the 40 voters, do you want to know how many said they would rather have it at a cheaper venue?
Go on.
4.
Yeah, I'm not buying it'll be cheaper at a bigger venue.
No,
I am not buying that at all.
I'm
And
not at all.
also, I don't think it's that. I mean, some of the ticket prices are absolutely bonkers, but if people don't pay it, they do tend to reduce them. And I haven't paid that much for my tickets for next year, for what I get to see, when I compare it to how much I would pay to go and spend a day at, Headingley watching some cricket, or even like for a test match. I mean, let's face it, it's a bit more than Headingley cricket, isn't it? So if I was going to go to Lords or whatever, if I was going to go to a test match, or if I'm going to go and watch, I don't know, some top quality football at, well, for me, it'd be St James's Park, obviously. But yeah, I mean, it's probably right up there with those prices. So I don't think it's not exorbitant.
No.
And the good thing about the Crucible as well, and I really sort of discovered this when I went this year, is that even if you're sat at the very back row in the gods, you actually get a really, really good view.
Yeah.
I had a better view on the back row than I did when I was like 5 or 6 rows in front. So if anybody does go next year for the first time and see some back row tickets at the Crucible, get them, because the view was great. It was really good.
Exactly.
And that was like 30-40 quid. So I think that's not bad.
No, I remember my first visit to Crucible, the morning session, which was the boring session of Luca Pichel and Gary Wilson. Anyone who remembers that match will know why I'm calling it the boring session. What happened at the end. But I was at one of the back rows for that. I still had a very good view, and you still get that sense of history and atmosphere.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, like you're going to the World Championship, you're not, like, it's top quality sport. You're not going to get tickets for peanuts. Like, you're going to have to pay some sort of like high enough fee. Like, I know, Catherine, you mentioned they are going to St James's Park or whatever, but it's it's top level of the sport. So
Yeah.
you're gonna have to pay a certain amount. Like, it's not. I don't think if it's brought away from the Crucible, it's going to be that much cheaper, even though they're saying it will be.
It's, you're not going to get a ticket to the World Championship for £2.50 in a box of Freddos.
Have you seen the cost of Freddos these days? That's British inflation for you. That we measure inflation and how screwed this country is by the cost of Freddos.
I remember the good old days when a Freddo cost 10p.
It's a long time ago now.
Exactly.
I remember the good old days.
You're showing your age there, Phil.
Coming from you, that's cheeky. Is this because I made mention of your age last week?
I think that's becoming a running theme, how old I am these days. Anyway, shall we move on?
Yes, let's not get bogged down in who insulted whose age. Jeremy Clarkson reference.
On that bombshell, we move on.
Yeah. Is Jeremy Clarkson pretty sure fellow Yorkshire person?
Yes. Yes. I'm not entirely sure how proud we are of him. He's South Yorkshire like me as well, which is even worse. But so is Kevin Keegan. So you know, I prefer to talk about him. But anyway.
Well, we'll move on to our big topic then before we get into an argument about who's a good representation of Yorkshire. And we're going to move on to our big topic today. Just to preface it though, where this has come from is we don't normally talk about pool on here, mainly because I've not got around to watching any yet. Sorry. But Ultimate Pool announced in the week that they're banning transgender players from some non-transgender events, effectively. They put out a statement that was saying that, and it's to do with gender equality. So our big topic this week is just discussing the idea of equality between men and women in snooker and debunking some of the arguments for not having it.
Right.
So I've made some notes to start off with. That was just my phone. So the first Women's World Championship was actually in 1976, won by someone who actually passed away earlier this year, the legendary Vera Selby. No relation to Mark. You'll be hearing no relation a lot here, incidentally. Mainly the surname Fisher.
There's a lot of Fishers.
Yeah.
It could get a bit confusing.
But yeah, they had the World Women's Championship in 76. Vera Selby won it. And then didn't bother holding it one until 1980.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was still played intermittently. The last year, excluding the two COVID-affected years, the last year without a Women's World Championship was 2005. The year afterwards was when someone called Rhiannon Evans won her first title. You might have heard of her. Anyone here heard of Rhiannon?
Yeah, that's when she started that run. She won like 10 in a row, was it?
Yeah.
11. Yeah.
I think it's 10 in a row.
Yeah.
Rhiannon's got the most titles. She's got 12 of them, followed by Alison Fisher, the Duchess of Doom, with 7. Quickfire Kelly Fisher with 5. They are not related. The WLBSA was formed in 1981 by current women's snooker president Mandy Fisher, who is no relation to any other Fisher. Now do you see why I started to get confusing?
The theme, it's a very big theme, isn't it?
Yeah.
And something interesting found as side to side. In 1991 was sources for this on Wikipedia. In 1991, Mandy Fisher played a series of exhibitions while 6 months pregnant, and according to an article found from 2018, one Barry Hearn got involved and forced her to wear maternity clothes. That's a quote, by the way. Forced her to wear maternity clothes for a media conference in Hyde Park.
He made her wear maternity clothes for a media event in Hyde Park.
Yeah.
Why?
Because she's playing while 6 months pregnant, and everywhere she went, she had to be followed by a midwife.
Mm.
I think it's probably best that I don't comment on this because I think we could be here a while.
Yeah.
But I'm biting my tongue right now.
Suffice to say, it's stupid.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm, mm. And I could like Vera Selby. I mean, there was a really nice tribute on Radio 4 to her. Actually,
Yeah.
might be worth looking up if anybody wants to. Just tells you like everything that she did for the game was absolutely amazing. And yeah, I mean, she was just an absolute. I mean, she died on her 93rd birthday. I remember that. That was one of the things that stuck out.
Wow.
It's something of a tradition in my family to die on your birthday as well. So it just remember it stuck with me. But yeah, she was from Yorkshire as well. So we'll have her. Mandy Fisher. Sorry, Kelly Fisher as well. Yep, she's from Yorkshire as well. You see, so this is why the roots of snooker very big in Yorkshire.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And talking of York, go on.
Yeah, I was just looking up about the women's world championships. Do they be held in a different city most years, or what way is that? Because see, last year was in Bangkok, and the
It
year
was in
before that
Bangkok.
was in
Yeah,
Sheffield.
yeah. It does tend to float around.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in Bangkok last year, in Sheffield the year before. They hadn't on in 2020 or 21 because of COVID. And in 2019, it was in Bangkok.
All right.
Mm, mm.
But it does seem to float around a bit every year. But we're talking about Yorkshire, which of course brings me to Rebecca Kenner.
Yay!
Mhm.
I was gonna bring Becky up. Yeah.
Who in May headlines 2019 when she stopped playing in a local snooker league because two local snooker clubs won't allow her to play because they don't allow women in,
Mm-hmm.
which I won't say it's stupid, but that's being polite.
Yeah, that's disgraceful, really.
It's not uncommon.
Yeah. I did look for, so I was looking for a while for statistics on how many snooker clubs across the country don't allow women in, but there's no, don't appear to be a statistic on the internet about it.
No, I mean it's a difficult one. I mean, if we're talking about the development of women's snooker, I mean it has to obviously start at the very start, really, doesn't it? And it has to start with them having the opportunities or feeling like they have to. I think that sometimes just because a snooker club will allow women in, which is jolly good of them. But they, it doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to be welcoming places for them as well. I think that's the other thing. I mean, there's two near where I live, either side of the little town where I live, and one of them I can happily go in, and I do sometimes go in with a male friend of mine. And the other one, I wouldn't cross the threshold. I wouldn't dare to cross the threshold. And I'm not a shrinking violet by any stretch of the imagination, as people probably know. But I just, the one time that I have been in there, I was not made to feel welcome at all. In fact, they kept mistaking me for staff, which, isn't particularly great. So, and I've heard many other similar stories from female friends of mine who've gone into snooker clubs and things like that. So I think that there needs to be a real effort, from the very top to, give females places, safe spaces, whatever you want to call them, to be able to come and play and feel welcome. I mean, I'm not advocating Ladies' Day necessarily, because I think, I don't think I've ever played pool or snooker against a woman that I wasn't related to. But I think that, I'm quite happy to play against the blokes, but I think there needs to be a really big effort from the top to get more women and girls in there and saying, this is something that you could do. And that was something that Vera Selby was very keen on, and I know that Alison Fisher and has as well, Mandy Fisher, all the Fishers, in fact, I've seen them hold them, and I think that it's something that they need to be doing.
Yeah. And talking about Ladies' Day, it's something not written down, but something I want to talk about is this weird concept of Ladies' Day, because I understand it's meant to be positive for getting women and girls into the sport, but in a weird roundabout way, I do wonder if the concept of Ladies' Day is actually making things worse, just because it's making women playing cue sports seem like this almost special attraction rather than the norm.
Novelty, not the norm. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I was looking for, novelty.
Mm.
It's today women can play snooker. They can't
Yeah.
any other day, but they can do it today.
On the other hand, I think I mean, it's probably not something I would do, but then I'm quite bolshy in Yorkshire about it. But I think it could be saying, well, it is a safe space sort of thing. Today, just come and see, what it is. I don't know. I mean, we've sort of said it with the youngsters, haven't we? Getting them into play, and having special events for them. I mean, like I said, I certainly wouldn't want it to be treated like a novelty, but on the other hand, if it's just a sort of one-off thing, it might not be, just to basically say this is what we offer, and we're all right, really. We're not sexist pigs or whatever.
And
Yeah.
luckily, the snooker club that I go to, Hyde Snooker and Social Club, really good. They have no issue of women coming in. I played with mate Sophie a couple of times, and when I was last in there a couple of weeks ago, there was more females in there than males actually playing.
Awesome.
There was a couple groups of women, to teenage, early 20s girls playing, having the time of their life. It was really good to see.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really good to know.
And it's just nice to see that not all snooker clubs are like that. And as someone who has been a snooker fan for the best part of 20 years, I am ashamed that the clubs that don't allow women in are part of this sport that I love.
Right. It's the old. I think a lot of it is a generational thing as well, and I think it's very much a sort of, I would say, old fashioned type of thing. But I suspect that it will die out, that sort of thing.
Yeah,
definitely.
Hopefully, anyway. But I would suggest that those clubs are more than likely in the minority anyway.
Yeah. Well, we're talking about Becky Kenner because in 2019, she made headlines when two local clubs wouldn't allow her to play in her local snooker league for a crime being a female. So she very publicly quit the league, but she initially started playing in with her father before he tragically passed away in 2015. And she basically made a bit of a sting about explaining that they don't allow women and she's not made to feel welcome. The chairman of the league, I didn't know this initially, but the chairman of the league actually did issue a public apology afterwards. He pointed, it's the Keighley District League or something. And the chairman of the league apologised. He pointed out that the two clubs in question that she mentioned, he actually writes to clubs every season to try and get the rules changed, but he basically has no power to stop them because if he moves those clubs, it's a very small league effectively, and if he moves those two clubs from participating, the entire thing goes under. So it's one of those catch-22 situations where do you risk effectively dismantling the entire league for everybody?
I mean, I think the only to push back on that is if you sort of say that it's mandatory for a woman to play in your team or something like that, then I could see them being a bit of a revolt. But just to say that your club needs to admit women, I mean, I'm not saying any of those women are going to be good enough, certainly not straight away. I mean, they may be, they may not be. I mean, obviously Becky Kenner certainly is, but that we're not all like that. We're not all Becky Kenner, are we, Sue? It's just a case of just allow them in. It's just I just I cannot get my head around why that would be. But I know I've read about the struggles that she's had. I mean, she's Keithley's not a million miles away from where I live, and it's just sad. It just makes me really sad that she's had to kick up such a fuss over something that really isn't. I mean, it's not harming anyone, is it?
No, definitely not.
Exactly. What do you think you're going to catch by allowing a woman into your club?
Exactly. But anyway.
And someone else I found, a woman called Helen Claire O'Connor from my old stomping ground, place I love, Huddersfield, studied there for 3 years. She claimed that she's once reported to her league after a league match by her male opponent because she played him while she was 8 months pregnant, and he complained that it was a handicap match because she was 1.5 people.
I'm going to assume that she won that match.
I'm going to presume so.
I mean, it doesn't surprise me. It really, really doesn't surprise me.
That I'm not sure where to call that hilarious or absurd, or both.
It's somewhere in between.
Yeah, because it's just that ridiculous that on the one hand you can't believe someone do that, but on the other hand it's too ridiculous to not be true.
Anybody who's worked with the general public will know that it's very, very likely that's happened. Yeah.
Well, we know women's tour, but the women's tour has grown so rapidly the past few years. They currently say on the website they've got over 170 players from 30 countries, which, to be honest, is more diverse than the men's game.
It's definitely been driven from sort of the Asian countries, hasn't it? Sort of around China, Thailand, and so on.
People like Mink, people like Bipat.
I love Mink.
I do. I think everyone does.
The sweetest, cutest, loveliest person. Yeah, I absolutely adore her, and she's my favorite. But yeah, I mean, it is. It's very much been driven from there, and I think that's I suppose in some ways it's right that the World Championship for women was held over in Thailand, given the investments that they're clearly making in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
You're talking about the Asian countries, I also need to shout out Ungon Yi. I'm sorry about my pronunciation again. On Yi, of course, 3-time women's world champ.
Yeah.
Recent years. And I maintain she's a very, very good player, even on men's tour. I think if she's just a little bit more attacking, she'd probably win quite a lot of matches.
Yeah.
They both, there was Mink and Onyi in the qualifying for Sheffield, and they both did really well, actually. I think Mink played our old friend Deshawat, which was I was actually really bummed out by that draw because I love both of them so much. But it was a really good match. It was really good quality. It was a lot of good fun to watch.
Yeah, I remember Onyi had a really good match with our mascot Michael Holt.
That was another one that I was a bit. I couldn't lose because I wanted both of them to win, but but the standard was really. I think
she got something like 10-8, but made a 1-3 something total clearance in it.
Yeah, they were both scoring quite heavily in some of it. Yeah.
Well, it just shows they can really play.
They can.
They really can. Yeah, I was looking and just doing a bit of research into the World Championship, the Women's World Championship. Couldn't believe the prize fund, like, compared to the men's side. Like, for the winner, I think only gets £8,000. That's mad. I just couldn't get over that. Like, it's.
Well, I think part of the problem with that, and I remember having a bit of a foot stamp about it at the time, was there wasn't any audience. Did you see why they were playing it?
Yeah.
It was basically like it's like some sort of club type place.
Right.
So great. There wasn't anybody there.
Yeah.
I was wondering about why World Snooker aren't doing more about this to help the women's game. Then I looked it up and found that World Snooker have not supported the women's game officially in any way financially since 1995.
Right. Well, there's
They've
your
not
answer.
supported for longer than I've been alive.
That's shocking.
It's and yet, they'll jump up and down and point out that, oh, we're giving people, ticket tour tickets, and they can do this and they can do that. They're doing that in spite of World Snooker. So in a way, they're kind of making them look more inclusive by allowing the women to play on, in inverted commas, the men's tour, which isn't the men's tour at all, really, now, is it?
It's the
But it never
main
really
tour.
was, because I don't think there was ever really a rule that said you couldn't play. Alison Fisher played, on
Alison Fisher
that
played
tour.
it. Rhiannon Evans
I was going to say Rhiannon's
done a
played
couple
it.
times.
Yeah, exactly. So it was never the men's tour. It was just the main tour. But now, obviously, these women are coming and making it more diverse, and they're giving, they're purposefully giving X number of tour cards to them, like they do with the youth champions and senior champions and
Yeah.
former champions and so on and so forth. So they're sort of
Imaginary
making,
champions,
yeah,
champions in
the world
dreams.
amateur. Well, there's a world amateur, isn't there? There's the youth champions and so
Yeah.
on and so forth. So they're making examples of certain groups of people, which is absolutely fine. That's brilliant. That's spot on. That's how you develop, by bringing people in by various different means.
I can't wait for them to start giving. Just in touch with I can't wait for them to start giving tour cards to champions from different sports, like the world chess champion or the
Suddenly
world
see
javelin champion.
Suddenly see
I'd love to see
Harry
Fafa
Kane coming
Whitbread.
down. Harry Kane coming down at the Crucible. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, no, I just think, it's fine, that you do that, because that's how you develop different sports in different types of society, for young people and people from, different areas. That's great. But
Yeah.
the women are succeeding, it seems to me, in spite of this. And I don't see why they can't use some of the money that's generated World Snooker to support it.
Yeah.
It doesn't even need to be that much at this point.
Exactly.
No.
Yeah.
But,
I'll tell you something about. I was looking up. I found an article from someone you actually mentioned earlier, Alex Cluster-Reds, from 2018, where he's talking about looking up winning snooker. And first link he found on Google was something Steve Davis said in 2014 about women will never be as good at snooker as men. And that's what brings me to the arguments against women being as capable. The first one is Steve Davis said it, so it must be true. Firstly, that was 9 years ago.
Yeah.
Secondly, have you maybe considered that Steve Davis does not know everything?
I think context is important. I think, I mean, I certainly don't think that there will be a woman in the top 16 sort of consistently for at least the next generation.
Yeah.
It's always a generational thing. Every big stride, every big improvement in sport tends to be, it's like one generation paves the way for the next generation, as it is in all aspects of life.
It'd be like taking, I don't know, Cliff Thorburn from the early 80s, dumping him on the tour today and still expecting him to be a world champion. He probably won't be, because the game has changed. The game evolves.
Exactly.
Women are still playing catch up because men are still playing catch up because the game's still evolving.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we might not have a women's, world champion in my lifetime, but maybe in my daughter's lifetime.
Yeah.
Then
potentially. Exactly.
And that's great. And that's how it should be. It should be. But what the women are doing now is showing, this generation coming up, people who are, like my godson, my niece, who are sort of 6 and 2, they will grow up seeing women doing what the men do. It's the same with the football, with the Lionesses. It's representation matters. They won't grow up thinking that this is a novelty or that this is different.
Yeah.
They'll just grow up thinking that this is normal, in inverted commas, and that's great.
That's the way it should be.
Exactly.
I think the Lionesses is actually a really good point, because you look what they've done for women's football, and you look at how much women's football is evolving and progressing right now. Snooker could be just like that. You've got people like Mink and Bayou Loon, Bypat, who could be the next lionesses effectively.
Exactly. But this is the thing that, I mean, they've had the football. I mean, women were banned from playing football for such a long time as well. Yeah. So obviously, if you're going to repress something for years and years, don't be surprised when you unrepress it and it's not going to be as great. That's just another topic. But I think at the moment, yeah, if you put this sort of investment into women's snooker that they have in other sports, such as the football, tennis, etc., you're going to see the results, aren't you?
Yeah, the thing with women's football, I remember 10, 15 years ago when I was really getting into football, Arsenal women were the dominant team in English sport, and they were playing in front of a few hundred fans in Barnet. And now there's talks of women's Super League teams playing in actual Premier League stadiums regularly.
Yeah, they do. I mean, Newcastle United, their women periodically will play at St James's Park and they'll make a big fuss of it. And they think they got about 15,000 people when they moved it there.
Like even the attendances at the Women's World Cup there, they were by far the most there's ever been.
Yeah. It was this idea of, you can't be interested in sport, you're a woman. And that's always been nonsense.
Of course it has. But I mean, I think, representation is obviously very key. And the women now that are on the main tour, the women that are being spotlighted, they are the ones that are paving the foundations for the next generation to come, and it's wonderful. So it's going to take a while. I mean, obviously they're starting at a point that's 50, 60 years behind the men. So but they'll catch up, and it'll be good. I mean, I'm always really excited at the beginning of every snooker season. The two things that I'm always really excited about are the younger people coming through, the next generation of any gender of player, but also the women, and seeing how they get on. Now that I know that there's going to be some women on the tour, I'd like to be able to see, and I've seen certainly in the last 3 or 4 years there's been a big improvement. Certainly, they're not the walkover draw, I don't think, now that they may have been maybe sort of 10 years ago, Rihanna accepted. I think they, now I don't think it's been seen as almost like a walkover anymore.
Yeah, there's a couple of arguments. The second one I heard was, you can't have women being as capable because, and it goes back to the transgender arguments as well, men have a biological advantage in snooker. Where's the evidence? As far as I'm concerned with snooker, 90% of it isn't in the arms, it isn't in the back, it isn't in the legs, it's between the ears.
Yeah. Well, you could say that about a lot of sport, really, elite sport. But I mean, you can talk about Q power, but Q power requires skill in the first place. Yeah. And that's where that comes from. I don't see that there is a biological advantage. It's more of a societal advantage.
Yeah. You look at someone like Mark Selby or Trump, who gets lost Q power, and it's not just because they're powerful men, strapping men. It's because they time the ball correctly. Mm-hmm. They know how to get the most out of their cue and out of their cue ability and style. It's not about having a biological advantage. It's about having the mental advantage to know the best way to play a shot.
Yes, absolutely. I don't think it's a biological thing.
Of course, there are going to be some biological advantages for men and probably some for women. That's natural in anything.
But we spoke about, we talked about, some of the younger players coming through and how tall they are and so on and so forth. And I don't think that's an advantage necessarily.
If anything is a disadvantage, because it means you're more prone to what are the two big issues snooker players generally complain of injury-wise? Back and neck. Do you really think being 6'4" is going to help you with that?
Exactly. That's what I mean. So yeah, there's something to be said for being a short ass, as I can attest.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
It's about opportunity. It's opportunity, it's representation and development, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's what
I think it's all about representation, and the biological advantage stuff is mostly just nonsense. If it's there's a contact sport, then I sort of get it to an extent. But something like snooker, absolutely not.
Yeah. No, I totally agree.
As you said, it's between the ears, majority of it. So I think that, I don't know, the idea that there's a biological advantage there, it's just nonsense, really.
Yeah. The last argument I've heard a bit on social media, it's probably the argument that annoys me the most as someone who likes learning about history a lot. It's just tradition that men are better than women at snooker and men get the opportunity. Lots of things have been tradition and no longer happen.
I'm not even going to comment on that.
Literally, it used to be tradition that women didn't work, they stayed at home all day. We got rid of that idea.
Yeah,
Just because something's tradition doesn't mean it has to exist now.
Do not get me started. Toxic masculinity, honestly. It's ridiculous. No, I don't think anybody, yeah. With barely a brain in their head.
Is it a good idea to wrap up then before Catherine's head explodes?
I think it might be.
I think so.
I'm sorry. I feel like I've kind of talked like way more than I would normally, but yeah, you got me started.
If I'm being honest, Catherine, I was really hoping to hear a bit from you on this because obviously you got a daughter and you're in a position where you can not just think of yourself, but if your daughter wanted to get into it.
Yeah.
I've tried. She's not. Yeah, she's not. But I have got a niece. And when my niece was about 6 months old, I was babysitting her and we watched some snooker and she was absolutely fascinated by it. She fixed her eyes on the screen and she didn't move. And the first frame she ever watched was Judd Trump's 147 in Turkey. I think it was Turkey.
My first frame to watch.
Was it Gibraltar? I can't remember. It's either Turkey or Gibraltar. I forget. But yeah, it was. And she's 2 now, so yeah. And she was absolutely thrilled. I couldn't believe it. I remember like messaging saying, "Oh my God, she's just watched her first frame, and it was a 147," and I had to tell her it's not always like this. So yeah, yeah. My godson as well. He's 6 as well, so I'm kind of like, yeah, eyeing up baby cues and things like that, little tables and things.
It's like the cat that's currently asleep right next to my laptop. He's fascinated by it as well.
Yeah.
I just want to say, if I've seen a bit distracted at times this week, it's because Castiel, my cat, decided to visit me and fell asleep right on my laptop.
Oh, mine's been supervising this episode as well. I'll put a photo of her on Twitter.
I'll post photos of her on Twitter. And he's absolutely fascinated by it. He'll just sit there watching the balls. His head going from side to side. Do.
Lovely. Sweet.
He's absolutely fascinated by it. But that's where we're going to end it for today. We really hope that you're going to continue the conversation in a comment section or on Twitter. You can find this podcast at ReRacked Official or at Racked Pod. ReRacked Official's the name. One day I'll get the name of the podcast right. Can find you, Catherine, where?
I'm on Twitter. I'm Missy Walker, and I'm on Facebook, Catherine Elizabeth. I'm funnier on Facebook. I'm nicer on Facebook.
To be fair, you're plenty funny on Twitter.
Oh, I think I'm better on there. But anyway, never mind. That's me.
And we can find Glen where?
Yeah, so Snooker 365 on Twitter. Yeah, so busy month coming up, plenty of snooker on, so all updates will be over there.
Yes, thank you. You actually did really help me with some of the scoring when I was at work this week. I've been on your Twitter feed a lot, so thank you.
Yeah, there's so much going on. It's hard to keep up, but yeah, no, enjoy it.
You're doing the Lord's work.
See, we're friends outside of the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely we are. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's going to be it for today. The schedule's going to be a little bit messed up from now on, so just keep an eye on the podcast official Twitter for updates on the next episode, because I'm starting work next week, so we'll probably be going up at more weekends, but we'll keep you posted on there.
Yeah.
She's been Catherine, he's been Glenn, I've been Phil at I'm 18 Snooker. We hope you enjoyed. Please leave a like, listen 18 times, listen another 18 times if you're still bored.
If you need to sleep.
Pardon?
If you need to sleep, if you're having trouble sleeping, just put us on. We'll help you.
You can even put us on mute if you like. It counts as you still. Just put us on mute while you're out of the house.
Yeah, why not?
So that's going to be it for today. So until next time, keep queuing. I think that's what we agreed, isn't it?
Yeah, we did. Bye.
That's it, yeah. Bye.
Bye, everyone.